So back in 2013, I started my first Shopify store. And from that point to now, I've seen a lot of changes. I've had a lot of big wins. I've had a lot of failures and I've learned a lot. So I'm just putting together today 7 short reflections on e-commerce and retention that I feel like I've collated from my time in e-commerce. So number one, retention can only exist with great acquisition. In my opinion, having healthy acquisition is always going to give your retention a better chance to flow, a better chance to grow, and most importantly, a bigger audience to learn from, to spot trends, and then to be able to get a good insight into how you can retain your customers. I think without acquisition, it's close to impossible for retention to exist. Number two, no person or software will ever solve attribution. So when looking back into the golden ages of e-commerce, when you could get a Facebook ad sale for like 20p or whatever it was, even back then, looking back now, it was quite clear even that attribution was flawed. That all of those platforms wanted to have the attribution because they wanted you to spend more money on their platform. And then going forward to now with the loss of third-party cookies and with a lot of the platforms struggling because of the Apple privacy data, it's quite clear that we're still not fully sure on what is the full attribution window. Now, there's been tools that have come into play like Triple Wow, like Northbeam, I believe it is called, that are helping companies solve this. But in my opinion, the reality is I don't think this is ever going to be solved. The customer journey is too complex. Whether they search for you on desktop and then they go and check out on mobile, it's just something that's never truly going to be answered. And I think when looking at your cost per purchase metrics, etc., it's probably better to look at it from an overview perspective rather than getting super obsessed on all individual channels. Number three, channel market fit doesn't get spoken about enough. We've all heard of product market fit. Does your product perform and help a real need in the market that's going to help it scale? But that's the same with channel market fit. There's some brands out there that are amazingly suited to Meta ads and Facebook and Instagram with their creative. And then there's some brands that absolutely nail Google ads. And their product is just, it's meant to be. The people searching, the way it leads into that landing page, it just all syncs. Now, this doesn't mean that you shouldn't do testing and be on other channels and constantly try and learn. But it's okay to realize that sometimes some brands are better suited to certain channels and they just need to lean into that while not also giving themselves so much risk that if that channel went, they've got no business. Number four, data used in isolation can quickly lead you down the wrong path. I think the perfect example here where we see this is in A/B testing. So many tests are done that I've seen are being done when the sample data just isn't big enough. Maybe the A/B test has gone out to 250 people. And the reality is one, that's just not going to give you a sufficient or significant result to make strategic decisions. But also it can then lead you down the wrong rabbit hole. Suddenly you're thinking, oh, maybe our customers really like that, and maybe we need to change everything of how we're doing things, when in reality it's been based off of a wrong test with not enough data. So be very, very careful with what decisions you make, what data you use to make that decisions, and when running any tests, how you perform those tests. Number five, you'll be amazed at what you can learn from a phone call with your loyal customers. Absolute game changers, something that not enough brands do. Even if it's only 5 calls, the amount you will learn from that call can give you so much insight into what your high quality audiences are like, where they've come from, why they love your brand, why they continue to use your product. And it's something that's not being done enough. A really quick way to start implementing this is in the next customer survey that you send out, add a little question at the end that says, hey, thank you so much for filling this survey. We'd love to chat to you in more detail over phone. If you're comfortable with that, please leave your number. I guarantee you people will leave your number. And the positive about doing it like this is you can trace back who to call based on the quality of the answers. And that just makes it more efficient of a process. Number 6, e-commerce is no longer a business model, but a channel designed to serve a specific purpose. Now, what I mean by that is back in the golden ages, again, we saw so many D2C brands blow up, get massive investment, make massive exits. But the reality is, I think D2C and e-commerce now is becoming a channel to serve an overall purpose for a business, just like retail is, just like wholesale is. And I think unless you're a business that has a very rare product, have a very specific USP and amazing economics, I think it's getting harder and harder for businesses solely to scale and make massive exits on being a D2C site alone. And number 7, margins that were built off of the golden ages of Facebook, and now a lot of brands don't understand how to make sustainable profit. When I first started in e-commerce, like I said, we could get a Facebook ad cost per click for like 20p, 30p, 50p, a pound. And that was an amazing time, but it also built up a lot of unrealistic expectations for a lot of businesses that started them. And the problem that started to happen was people weren't taking much notice of their unit economics, their gross margins, and they thought that marketing was so cheap they didn't need to really worry about creating a product that could scale sustainably profitable. And I think that's the problem we're now seeing. A lot of brands are in a position where it's like, well, I can't afford to pay £8 cost per purchase on my products. And going back and starting the product process again is a very long and tedious situation to be in. And I think that is really now differentiating the brands that started 15 years ago to the brands that are starting now. I think the brands that are starting now are a lot more aware of the economics of their product. They're a lot more aware of the reality of the current ecosystem of marketing. And I think it's allowing them to build a lot more sustainable and solid foundations versus the brands of yesteryear. So long-winded video, but I hope you enjoyed these short reflections, and let me know what you learned in the comments.